Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great weekend out there so far. Happy Mother's Day to all the awesome moms out there. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're so thankful for the unconditional love that you show us every single day. And I hope you all have some awesome plans planned out for today. Hopefully, someone made an entire weekend out of it. You guys certainly deserve it. But hopefully, the weather doesn't dampen your plans if there are outdoor activities for certain areas of the country. It will try to, but for other areas of the country, it will be very hot. And we'll speak on that as we speak on today's forecast. And speaking on today's forecast, we'll cover that first. We'll cover current conditions, the latest outlooks, and then we'll break down the country section by section. We'll spend a little extra time on the southeast. We have another tricky tornado threat for today. Had a confirmed tornado yesterday. For a very low tornado risk day, by the way, in the panhandle of Florida. Could be another day, except the tornado risk could be a little bit further north today. So we'll speak on all that, could get an upgrade to another category, and we'll speak on flash flooding risk too. After we get done talking about today and tonight's weather, we'll speak on the next couple days, the same storm system bringing all the weather for today across the southeast. We'll do the same thing for tomorrow and the next day. I'm really watching tomorrow, been watching this day for the last few days. Could bring a little bit of a higher risk of severe weather, but I'm watching definitely the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, northern Georgia. I'm not comparing this to Helene at all, guys, but maybe a miniature version of it. Going to be a lot of rain gets pushed up against the mountains of North Carolina, especially some gusty winds. So we'll have a little segment for that. But then we'll speak on what's to come after that. As we get into late this work week, the return of severe weather across the middle of the country will be in place. I'm watching a few days, and I really think Thursday could be the bigger day out of all of them. But I think we'll get severe weather chances all the way through next weekend. Also. So we'll speak on everything, talk about the pattern, nerd out with you guys. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. And I do apologize, these videos getting out a little bit later than they typically do. The weekends is just a time where I sleep in a little bit more. So, of course, it backs everything up. So, let's get rocking and rolling. So, latest on what's going on right now, most of your energy across the central and western U.S. is being pushed all the way up into Canada. Then it comes all the way back down. So, you're about to get some rainy times here in the UP of Michigan, at least portions of it. We got some rain surging over areas of the northern Rockies, the Pacific Northwest. And then we continue just to have this pesky upper level low that spins around for areas of the southeast and the deep south. We're getting a slug of rain into the Carolinas. We're getting kind of a south to north flow over areas of the panhandle of Florida. This is bringing flash flood warnings right now. We got to watch a tornado risk too, even as we get into like southern areas of Georgia for later on this morning to this afternoon. Area of rain being thrown back into Arkansas. And then northeast Texas and areas of Louisiana. But this is what's going on right now. The Storm Prediction Center outlook, we have a slight risk across Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho, level 2 out of 5. And this is really driven off, it looks like some damaging winds. So a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles of any given location. Here's just a zoomed in look at it. Interesting day here in Montana down to Wyoming. And I'll zoom into this area when we get to the western U.S. timestamp. But really damaging winds are the biggest threat with this. Now, let's go back down here to the southeast. Only a kind of a pretty large, I would say, marginal risk, but I could see this going up another category. We just got to watch for it. But for now, a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather extending to just south of Memphis, including all of southern Alabama, southern Georgia, the panhandle of Florida, all the way down into central sections of Florida, all the way now up into the low country of South Carolina. And there is a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of any given location from Charleston over to Montgomery, just south of Macon, all the way down to Tallahassee, Gainesville, Jacksonville, Panama City. I would say take this 2% risk serious. I mean, I'm not telling you guys to freak out this morning in this area, but just because it's a very low chance, I really think we'll get some tornado warnings in this area for today. And I could see an upgrade to a 5% risk. But the other risk, just a 5% risk of winds, damaging winds, and hail threats. Just a couple areas to watch for some small hail. So that's the Storm Prediction Center outlook. Now, the flash flooding risk. For now, we just have a slight risk. There's a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being exceeded within 25 miles of any given location in the yellow area. The green is a 5% risk. We have ongoing flash flooding right now in the Panhandle of Florida, so take this serious. There's going to be a lot of a south to north flow, so that's going to mean some of this heavy rain storm activity will train over the same areas over and over and over again. Could be a setup where maybe you're a friend or a family member 45, 30 minutes up the road is just getting hours on end of heavy downpours, and you're not getting hardly anything because just the directional flow of it's not really moving west to east a whole lot. So just kind of one of those days, and it'll be like this tomorrow also. But speaking on watches, warnings, advisories, we got a lot of red flag warnings up here in the north central U.S., the Dakotas down to Nebraska. These just keep getting larger, and this is really driven off, of course, dry conditions, but it's going to be hot in this area. I did not honestly realize how hot it was going to be in the Dakotas and areas of Minnesota for today until I actually prepared this video. I'm going to zoom into this area when we talk about temperatures, but it's going to get into the 90s, 100s potentially. In these areas. So we'll speak on that, but it's hot, it's dry, so red flag warnings are up. Flood watches are up for areas of Georgia, Alabama, and Florida, and then we have some up for North Carolina and Virginia, and I think that there will end up being some flood watches up for areas of more of the areas of the mountains too in North Carolina also. I'm actually kind of surprised that there's none up right now, but just a broad look at the southeast over the next 24 hours, and then we'll zoom into individual states. As we're moving forward here, look at all the rain coming in out of the northeast Gulf here and starting to move into the Panhandle of Florida, southern areas of Alabama and Georgia. A lot of downpour activity, embedded strong to severe storms, could have some embedded supercells, and just a huge pool of moisture starting to move inland. And as we're starting to get into this evening, just a lot of rain, and some of these cells right into here could produce tornadoes. We're even getting storm activity getting thrown all the way back into northern Mississippi. Look at all the rain. Look at this big slug of rain moving into southwest Florida as we're getting into later this evening. We need this, but we're going to get it in the form of some storms. And then we're getting into tomorrow, and then more of the Carolinas, the southern Appalachian Mountains will start to get your turn as we're getting into our Monday. So let's just focus in on the next 24 hours. Alabama, Mississippi, as we're starting to get into 2, 3 o'clock, we're just going to get pushes of moisture that move more so from the southeast to the northwest. That's just the way that the flow is over this area due to the position of the upper level low. So by the time we get into about lunchtime, we got storms they can pretty much be anywhere in Alabama, Mississippi. Could be near Jackson, Meridian, Tupelo, down to Mobile. We're definitely going to have some rounds of heavy rain in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa. By the time we get into 10 p.m., still storms are out there. From the Panhandle of Florida up to Montgomery, Monroeville, Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Meridian, rounds of storms. And we're getting into midnight. We can continue to get these storms, and then it might calm down by the time we're waking up for tomorrow morning. But just rounds of storms throughout this entire area. Now, Florida, we're getting a lot of flooding range right now in the areas of the Panhandle of Florida. This will just continue. I think that this could become a serious situation if this banding feature that you're seeing here on this screen does not pivot west or east. So it's just kind of going right into Panama City, Tallahassee, points west. And you see the little circle things coming off some of these cells out in the Gulf. These are potentially water spouts. Rotating supercells, rotating storms, and some of this could move into the Panhandle, even the bend of Florida, northern Florida, as we're getting into the afternoon hours. And after we're getting into about dinner time, we're just getting a lot of storm activity across central and northern Florida. Might begin to calm down a little bit further west on the Panhandle, but look at all this storm action. Much needed rain, but it could come in the form of storms starting to move towards the west coast of Florida. This is 9 p.m., this is 10 p.m., and I think you're going to get a rainy late evening across sections that have an extreme D3 drought in place. So much needed rain on the way for these areas, and it just could be a rainy and stormy overnight period across most of the peninsula of Florida. And in fact, talking about how much rain you could get, let's let's look at this and come on, let's be quicker here. And rainfall over the next, between now and 2 a.m. Tuesday. Much needed rain. This is not going to knock your drought out or anything like that, but a couple to maybe a few inches of rain. The entire peninsula of Florida could get, the entire state of Florida could get at least an inch of rain. So much needed rain in these areas. Tampa down to Fort Myers, inch to 2.5 inches of rain possible. Much needed in these areas. Now, Georgia and South Carolina, we've had some rounds of heavy rain and storm activity that's moved through, especially Myrtle Beach. Got hit by a pretty strong storm earlier this morning, but when we get to about lunchtime, storms will try to refire. There's going to be a stormy midday in Statesboro down to Savannah. And then watch how the radar potentially lights up about mid-afternoon. Look at these storms down here. Listen, I really think we could get some tornadoes down here in southern Georgia. I think there's the potential for a slight risk to be issued in the panhandle of Florida into southern Georgia sometime in the next update or two. But by the time we get in this afternoon, some heavy rain could begin to move in as far north as Columbia, Augusta, all the way up to Atlanta by dinner time. But I think we could get some rotating thunderstorms down here in southern Georgia. So I just would be mindful of this. Valdosta, Albany, anybody down here, down to the Florida-Georgia line. Southern Georgia, be careful with a little bit of an isolated higher tornado risk with this for this afternoon. And by the time we're in the 9 p.m., maybe the action begins to calm down a little bit, but still just rounds of heavy rain. Midnight, and then we're starting to get into 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning with rounds of heavy rain surging through South Carolina, still through Georgia. And I think tomorrow could be a bigger day for South Carolina, points north. But this is rainfall between now. In fact, let's show rainfall really quick for between now and 2 a.m. Tuesday. Good bit of rain, guys. Savannah could get 4 to 5 inches of snow. I promise I don't have snow on my mind. I always kind of have snow on my mind. 4 to 5 inches of rain. Charleston, that was random. 3 to 4 inches of rain. Myrtle Beach, kind of the same thing. 2 to 3 in Columbia. And most of Georgia will get a good bit of rain also. But one thing I do want to show is let's look at the updraft velocity swath for Georgia. I'm going to do this on the fly for you folks. Let's look at this. Yeah, definitely shows some highlighted colors down here. These little, areas of blue, yellow, green. This is where we could have some rotating updrafts. I just think that we're going to get a couple tornadoes, at least tornado warnings down here in this area sometime this afternoon. Be mindful if you live here in this, maybe even a little bit further north of this. And even show some rotation with some of this stuff on the South Carolina coastline also. So let's just be aware of this. Not a high tornado risk, but it could uptrend, and I could see it overachieving is what I'm really trying to say. But up here in North Carolina, Virginia, just some rounds of heavy rain, light to moderate rain at least. And then we get into this evening, we get into the overnight hours, and not a whole lot going on. And I really just think the heaviest rain begins to move in after midnight. Greenville, Spartanburg, to Asheville, up into Boone. But I really think tomorrow is your big day. So this is getting into tomorrow morning, and this is when the heavy rain begins to fall. But did just want to kind of show you the timing, the evolution of this as we work our way through the next 24 hours. I don't think today will be a very active day in North Carolina, Virginia. It's really as we're getting into tomorrow. Flooding rains could move in and some gusty winds. So we'll have another special segment closer to that area after we break down the rest of the next 24 hours everywhere else. But the Northeast, very calm weather, nothing to really speak on. Enjoy your Sunday. Should be really nice, honestly. Maybe a little cooler, but it should be a really nice day up here. South Central U.S., some pesky rain showers will be with us along the Arklatex and just southeast Oklahoma, areas of Arkansas, northeast Texas. And we could get the forming of more storms, downpours in Arkansas for today. We just continue to be influenced by this upper low to our southeast and east. And until it just fully moves off to the east or northeast or just dissipates, you're going to continue to just get rounds of showers and cloud cover. So some showers could make it all the way to the Dallas-Fort Worth area by this evening, but Definitely a lot of storms in the Mississippi Delta, but nothing too crazy. No severe weather outbreak or anything like that. But this is the middle of the night. Still got rain in western Tennessee, Arkansas. I'm waking up tomorrow morning to another damp start. I do think as we're starting to get into tomorrow, deeper into the week, we'll finally get rid of all this. So, but everybody else in the south central U.S. should be okay. Now, up here in the north central U.S., I think a lot of the rain that you're seeing in Lake Superior right now, a lot of it will miss the UP, but I do think you'll get some light rain in certain areas. But most of the rest of the day is fine. Nothing going on. We just had that fire risk, that fire danger in the areas of the Dakotas and Minnesota. So be mindful of that. It's gotten dry pretty fast, but we could get some moisture this week. But the western U.S., we got areas of energy moving ahead. The jet is to your north. Therefore, a lot of the flow is cruising over this area, so low pressure. We'll get some storms going in areas of Idaho, especially Montana and Wyoming. Could get some thunderstorms in like Yellowstone National Park today. But just rounds of moisture will move in. And then by the time we get into the late evening hours, the overnight hours, a stronger storm system will move on shore. And this will just bring rounds of rain, maybe even some thunderstorms into northern California, higher elevation snow, but Oregon, Washington, and just a closer look at Montana. Starting off this morning, we're taking it to about midday. Then we get in this afternoon. Here's some storms, some gusty winds, some small hail with these. Just be mindful of all these. Helena points east, or Helena. I should know that by now. Karen, the name of your city. But I think I always just second guess myself. But Billings, Bozeman, it points north. There will definitely be an area where we have to watch for some stronger storms. 5 p.m., this is 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Then things should be able to relax this evening. Temperatures, a cooler day in the northeast, pocket of warmer air in the mid-Atlantic where you're kind of sandwiched between the leftovers of this trough up here in the northeast and then that upper level low to your south. So therefore, you are able to warm up into the 70s and 80s. Nice day in the Midwest, Ohio Valley. And then this is the western U.S. This is incredible heat for this time of the year, for really any time of the year for the Dakotas and Minnesota and eastern Montana, guys. I mean, this is just wild. But it's hot in the southwest, cooling down the Pacific Northwest with this storm system moving in. Look at these high temperatures. This blew my mind when I woke up this morning and looked at this. They're going for 101 degrees. Not South Dakota, but in North Dakota. And not the southern area of North Dakota, but a northern area of North Dakota. 101 degrees for a high temperature is what they're going for. In early May. I mean, this is incredible. I know it gets hot up here. The weather is just wild in the middle of the country, but this is just crazy. I mean, hot into Minnesota, just 90s, just crazy stuff, guys. I mean, somebody in Canada might hit 100 degrees. So, wild stuff. Thought it was very interesting. But getting into tomorrow, there is a severe weather threat that I think will uptrend for areas of the southeast. But right now, marginal risk all the way over to Huntsville, down to Birmingham, Atlanta, almost all the way up to Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, Macon, Augusta, Columbia, down to Savannah, all the way down the I-95 corridor. This includes the rest of the peninsula and northern sections of Florida. Right now, there's a pretty large, 2% risk in place. I think that this will uptrend. But we'll see. It might not. But the wind threat, just a 5% risk of damaging winds and hail. But I'm watching this. I think that today's tornado threat is very similar to tomorrow's tornado threat, but maybe a little bit further north. Now, the excessive rainfall outlook, this could uptrend to a moderate risk. It would show up in red. As of right now, we just have a very large 15% risk of flash flooding occurring. This goes all the way up to like Harrisonburg, Virginia, and all the way down to Miami, Florida. It includes just about all of the Carolinas. I think they potentially put, that's just way too much on my screen. I think they potentially put some sort of moderate risk through this region right into here, because of all the rain being pushed up against the higher elevations of the mountains. It'll squeeze up, kind of that upslope flow. It'll squeeze out all the moisture in the atmosphere and enhance rainfall in these areas. So I really think we'll end up getting a moderate risk. We'll see what happens. But moving forward into day 3, I mean, there's not even a marginal risk up. That could change, especially for this area in that light green, which means a general risk of thunderstorms. But I will say that for day 3, there is a slight risk of flash flooding occurring for Richmond down to Virginia Beach, Charlottesville. You guys have a 15% risk of flash flooding occurring all the way down to Elizabeth City, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. I already said that. But anyways, just looking at this going forward, just looking at the system for the rest of the life of it, because we're going to slowly start to stop talking about this system as much as we get past it. But starting tomorrow, the greens, the yellows, the reds you see on your screen, it's just rounds of storms and heavy rain. So tomorrow, we're getting into tomorrow evening. You can see just this slug of moisture continuing to move into the southeastern states. So we get into Monday morning. I'm sorry, this was actually today. This is today. This is this morning, not tomorrow morning. So we get into tomorrow morning. So you see all this heavy rain all the way up into areas of Kentucky, eastern Tennessee. And just look at all the heavy rain being pushed up against, the mountains of North Carolina. It's just a concerning look. Nothing even comparable to Helene, but we know that this area that was impacted by Helene is still recovering. They will be recovering for years to come. So any sort of event like this where moisture gets pushed up from the south and just kind of literally gets slingshot up into this area, we got to watch. Luckily, this isn't a multi-day event, maybe 2 days at most, but I really think the big day will be tomorrow. When we get into tomorrow night, most of the action begins to pull into the mid-Atlantic, but we'll still be doing rounds of rain, and a lot of this will move into the northeast. But, rainfall, I want to zoom into this area. This area that you see here that's in this yellow-colored region, that's over 4 inches of rain, 4 to 5 inches of rain. This will get pushed up against this higher terrain of North Carolina, the foothills, and just really, it's the eastern slopes here where all the rain is going to get pushed up against all the moisture, and then the higher elevations will just squeeze out all the available moisture in the atmosphere. That mixed with some gusty winds. Now, we're going to get heavy rain across the entire state of North Carolina, even Jacksonville to Wilmington, 4, maybe 6 inches of rain. A lot of rain elsewhere too, but I'm really concerned about this area right here in North Carolina. Am I thinking this is going to be a catastrophic event like Helene? No, I'm not. But it could just be an event that could get bad fast just because what they just dealt with and everything, I guess you would say, is in a weakened state, if that makes sense. So, and then, we could get some gusty winds. This is starting off tonight around 2 a.m. This is the Euro. Might be a little off, but guys, with all this rain getting pushed up against these areas, this is 2 p.m. tomorrow, we could have some 30, maybe 40 mile per hour wind gusts across the North Carolina mountains, Tennessee mountains. Of course, everything's loose. I'm sure there's still a lot of things that's loose out in the forested areas. So heavy rain, the moist soil, everything's loosened up. We could run into some issues tomorrow, and it could happen fast, just like it did with Helene. So just be aware of this, some gusty winds, flooding rains, and so forth. So moving forward, getting into Thursday of this week now, I keep wanting to say next week, but technically it's this week now. There is still a 15% risk. I think it's gotten a little bit larger. It extends from Green Bay all the way down to Paducah, Kentucky, all the way over to eastern sections of Missouri and Iowa, and all the way back into southwestern and western areas of lower Michigan. 15% risk in the yellow area of any kind of severe weather. Highest risk going to be tornadoes. We're not sure. Damaging winds, hail. We'll figure that out as we get a little bit closer. There's no 15% risk up for the day before Wednesday or the day after Friday, but I do think Friday into Saturday we're going to have severe weather risk probably to the east of this area, and it could actually go a little bit further southeast. So I think that we could have some severe weather risk across maybe this entire region right here. But we'll see what happens, and I'm going to explain why here in a second. But right now, they're the highest. Their confidence level is the highest for Thursday. So talking about the setup here, this is the Euro. This is starting off Wednesday, May the 14th. We have a system moving in. You can see with the flow dropping down the areas in purple. This is at 500 millibars, about 18,000 feet up in the air. A lot of flow going across the southwest into the southern high plains and starting to enter the plains as this fully ejects, and this mid-level jet, kinematic energy, wind energy needed for the lifting mechanism of storms, and wind energy for storms begins to move across the middle of the country. But Wednesday afternoon, it's right here. Now, you got a lot of flow going over areas of Texas into like Louisiana. I wouldn't focus on when I put my cursor over these areas if it's 40 knots, if it's 70 knots. Just look at this purplish, bluish area and just know that there's flow in the atmosphere. Now, this is Wednesday afternoon too, but this is thermodynamics. All right, so these are dew points. Now, a lot of that flow is overriding a very dry air mass. Now, in certain areas, like in Louisiana, it is, overriding a very moist air mass, dew points in the 60s and 70s. But the best flow is not overriding a moist environment. So there's just some differences in model guidance about Wednesday. I think we'll get severe weather Wednesday, but I don't think your ingredients, kinematic-wise, which I just showed you with the flow, and thermodynamics, which is what I'm showing you right now with the moisture and the CAPE levels, which I'll show you here in a second, they're not really overlapping each other very well. Now, as you move into Thursday, which could be the big severe weather day, this is around Thursday afternoon. Let's go on and just take it one more into Thursday evening. Now with this upper trough, upper feature begins to move across areas of the north central U.S. Now we have a strong southwesterly flow overriding what's most likely a very moist environment for a much larger area. So at this point, we just have this mid-level jet streaking over the south central U.S. into the Midwest, getting into the Ohio Valley. So this is a lot of flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere overriding what's likely going to be a pretty moist air mass. So let's go on and switch this all the way to Thursday evening now. And sure enough, here you go. Look at this pool of deep moisture, dew points. Not just in the 60s, but deep into the 70s, up the Mississippi River, all the way into areas of the Midwest. I mean, areas of the deep south. So now we go back to this graphic, okay? Look at this very moist air. Remember dew points in the 60s and 70s? That's what these storms need. They like moist air. This is very humid air. So where is the kinematic energy overlapping? Well, it's overlapping a lot of that moist air. I mean, that is over a 70 knots mid-level jet overriding a very moist environment. So we call that overlapping ingredients for severe weather. You got that? Jets riding right over this region. Even down here, certainly up here. Okay, so now there's other features to watch too. Right now they got the severe weather threat. Where is it? Like right through here, I believe. Now, some people might be wondering, well, why isn't there a severe weather threat down here too? Well, there probably will be. But remember, 15% risk past day 3 is like a slight risk. Okay, so that's a level 2 out of 5. If it's a marginal risk, they're not going to put an outlook for it. So I think we'll end up getting a severe weather risk also down here. Okay, but your best flow is right over in this region, and it's overlapping a pretty moist environment. Now, you don't need a lot of flow, like 30 knots. That'll get the job done, especially when the atmosphere is so moist. So you continue to ride into, say, Friday. Okay, a little bit of a split flow action. So this is Friday afternoon. Now we have a huge corridor of enhanced flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. I mean, look at this. Look at this down here. From Texas to the Carolinas. And so we got this flow kind of riding up through here, and we got this flow kind of riding up like this. A bit of a split flow feature. Now, the flow in this upper arrow I drew is probably overriding a pretty moist air mass. Let's see if it's true. All right, let's go. I'm gonna keep the arrows on your screen so we can like click them back on. So we go on and look right here. So let's stop it here. So let's bring back those arrows. All right. So this is perfect. I'm figuring out something that I can do in the future as I do this video. So you see the first arrow I drew, you see how the flow's going up through this region over that around that upper feature, the upper lobe. Now this first arrow to the north, this flow is overlapping a very dry air mass. Dew points in the 30s, the 40s, it's not going to get the job done. But this flow being created to the south, now this is overlapping dew points in the 60s and 70s. You're going to get widespread severe weather like that. Okay, now let's take all this off. Let's move to Saturday. Heck, might as well. Saturday, what does it look like? Gets a little bit weirder. So what I can tell you is there's a lot of flow just riding over the country in general. But I want to watch as we're getting into Sunday into early the following week. I really think we continue to just have a look that supports a lot of flow riding across the Rockies into the central portion of the country. And what's your moisture going to look like? We're not quite sure. There's no point in getting too deep into that right now because we got things to figure out ahead of us. But I will tell you, this is Cape levels off the Euro for Thursday afternoon. Guys, I mean, they're showing over 4,500 joules per kilogram in mixed layer Cape. Tons of fuel in the atmosphere. I won't have to worry about that because of this deep moisture. And then we're getting to Friday. Listen, Friday could be a severe weather day for a very large area. I think there's just some kinks to figure out, but Friday could be a big day across the southern tier of the country. So we'll stop it right there. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. Mothers, I hope you have a wonderful day. You deserve it. We appreciate y'all so much. Happy Mother's Day one more time. And I'll talk to you when I talk to you again. God bless.